And take a deep breath in. And as you breathe in a feeling of calm and relaxation. And as you exhale, just allow any tension, any stress to leave your body. Breathe in that feeling, that resourceful feeling of relaxation. And on your outward breath, if your eyes aren't already closed, allow them to close now. That's it. Deeper and deeper relaxed as those eyelids close. Now that's it. Deeper and deeper relaxed. And as you breathe in, imagine a vibrant color that best represents resourceful relaxation. Imagine that color going in through your nose, filling your lungs, and allow your heart to distribute that feeling of resourceful relaxation to every cell in your body. And as you exhale, notice a darker color goes out through your nose, representing any tension, any stress, any anxiety. That's it, leaving your body on your outward breath. Continuing to go deeper and deeper, relaxed. And I want you to use the power of your imagination to imagine that you are wandering around a city. Now this might be a busy, bustling city of the past or a city of the future. And I want you to imagine that sometimes when you walk through a city that is bustling and busy, you can simply go inside your own mind, lost in a trance, able to make complex moves crossing streets, weaving in and out of people, but doing it completely without thinking. And I want you to imagine there you are in this big, bustly city of the past or the future. And it's a blue sky, beautiful day, and you can't help but notice how many people are in this city. You're walking around, perhaps seeing the colors of people's clothes, perhaps the different types of shoes that they're wearing, the different speed at which they walk, or perhaps move. You notice some people are in a hurry to get somewhere, and other people are just meandering and wandering around. And sometimes you observe the people, and sometimes you go back inside your mind in a state of reverie, a daydream state where you're able to just get lost in your own thoughts. Now, I want you to think back to a recent time where you met someone, and just as you recall their face, you can't help but smile. There's something about that particular face that whenever you think about that face, it makes you smile. And notice that as you recall that thought now, you can feel your lips start to raise at the edges, that your eyes just start to change their position slightly, and you catch yourself smiling just at the thought of someone's face. And then I want you to think of a different memory, a memory of an animal. Now, I don't know what that animal is doing, but it has a similar impact on you, in the sense that whenever you think of that animal doing that thing, again, it creates a desire to smile. And notice how easy it is. And you don't have to make the colors brighter or the image bigger, because it's just a thought in your mind's eye from the perspective of someone wandering through the streets, getting lost in their own imagination. but it still works. Thinking about a face of someone you know, or an animal do something, either real or just a video that you've seen, it still triggers that desire to smile. And notice, it doesn't matter which way round it goes, because when you smile, you start to feel good, or when you feel good, you start to smile. And they've done experiments where they've asked people that are clinically depressed to just look at themselves in a mirror, but forcing a smile by having a toothbrush there lodged in between their teeth, forcing their facial expression to create a smile that isn't even real. And when they studied these depressed people looking at themselves in a mirror with a toothbrush in between their teeth, forcing a smile, they started feeling happier and more hopeful, simply because of the neurology linked to the facial expression of smiling. So you see, whenever you think of a memory that makes you smile, that will also make you feel good. But now I want you to think of a memory as you're walking through those streets in that busy city, of a specific time where something happened that made you feel great. Maybe you received a compliment, and I don't know if you can remember hearing that compliment like it was the first time you ever heard that compliment. But notice that as you experience what it was like that very first time that you heard that compliment, you can feel good. And notice that your facial expression starts to change and you start to smile. It doesn't matter whether you smile first to make you feel good, or you feel good first and then smile as a reaction to feeling so good, sometimes by just thinking about a time in the past when you were either smiling or feeling good now. And I want you to think of a time when you did something to make someone else smile. And that may have been recently, perhaps just a few days ago, maybe weeks ago. But think of a specific time as you think about that moment when you did something to make someone else smile, and notice as you see them smile, those mirror neurons within your mind, your brain, triggers you to smile as well. And it doesn't matter how many different memories you come up with. Whenever you can think of a time where you did something to make someone else smile, notice that you can't help but smiling either. And as these thoughts and memories about feeling good and smiling just percolate and move around your mind, going backwards and forwards in time, I want you to entertain an idea. What if smiling is infectious? What if you catch it like the flu? And if someone smiled at you today, what if you started smiling too? And then in that city, just imagine walking around the corner and seeing someone see you grin. And then when you notice that they smile, you realize that you've passed it on to him. And as you find yourself thinking about the smile and just calculating its worth, entertain the idea that a single smile like yours could travel around the earth. And from this point forwards, if you start to feel a smile begin, don't leave it undetected, because you could start an epidemic and get the whole world infected. And as you continue to walk through the streets, see how contagious that smile is. Become aware of your smile. Make eye contact with these strangers in this busy street of the past or the future. And notice that as you make eye contact with a genuine, authentic, friendly smile, most of the time they will smile back and not realize that by maintaining that smile as they then turn around the corner, they then create a ripple effect of yet more smiles. And given that scientists have already identified that when you smile, you start to feel good. Your brain starts releasing feel-good chemicals like serotonin and dopamine, oxytocin. All those feel-good chemicals get released into your blood, making you feel better as a direct consequence of smiling. And therefore, the more you smile, the better you feel. But also, those mirror neurons exist in other people too. So as you smile, they smile. In the same way that you've had that experience of seeing someone else yawn, and you had an irresistible urge to yawn too. You may have even noticed that this also works with animals. If you have a pet dog, at least once you can recall that either they yawned or you yawned, and that created a reaction so that either you or the dog then yawned in response. If yawning is infectious and smiling is infectious, what other things could be infectious? What if your posture and your energy changes as you start to feel more grateful and better about yourself, acknowledging all the things that you are appreciative of? Isn't it possible that people respond to that posture, those facial expressions, that energy, and start to feel better about themselves too? Imagine walking around that city for an entire day, simply smiling at as many strangers as possible. Because your smiles would create smiles in others, which then create smiles in others yet again. Isn't it possible that within a single day, you could make an entire city happier? And these are just thoughts, ideas, within a daydream of you imagining a past or future time when you are walking down and around a city, lost in your own imagination. And whether smiling is infectious or not, isn't it possible that you can create a chain reaction simply as a side effect of you feeling good anyway? And I want you to think back of those memories where you were able to smile just at the thought of something. And let's start with that face, that when you remember that face, you start to smile. And at the very point where you start to smile, I want you to wiggle all of your toes, because we're going to create an anchor, a link, a trigger, so that wiggling your toes is then linked to the idea of smiling, so that in the future, just by wiggling your toes, you can create a desire for a genuine, authentic smile. Think to that animal doing that funny thing, and again, as you start to smile, wiggle those toes and notice how irresistible it is to keep smiling even more. And as you smile, you start to feel good for absolutely no reason whatsoever. And then think of that deed that you did for someone else that made them smile. And as you see them start to smile, notice you start to smile, and again wiggle those toes. And in doing so, strengthen that trigger so that you know at any point in the future, if you want to feel better about yourself, happier and more smiley, you can just wiggle those toes and nobody else knows what is happening at all. They see you smiling, assuming that you are happy. And it may be that you're not at that moment, but by smiling anyway, your body acts as if you are happy, and you become happier. And then remember that compliment that you received like you received it for the very first time. Feel how good it feels to receive that compliment. And as your face starts to smile, again, wiggle those toes. That's it. And then imagine walking around that street with just a neutral face. And then try out wiggling those toes and notice that you can't help but smile. And you have the ability to wiggle toes whenever you want, when you're angry, stressed, annoyed. And in doing so, you can't experience two conflicting, opposite emotions at the same time. So, when you are in that state of mind which isn't enjoyable, you can just remember one of these times that made you smile, wiggle your toes, and before long you will be smiling and feeling good for no reason whatsoever. In a few moments' time, I will count from 1 to 10 to awaken you. You will awaken feeling optimistic, feeling happy for absolutely no reason whatsoever, feeling good purely because of all that oxytocin, dopamine and serotonin flooding your body right now. And all those thoughts of either you smiling or other people smiling will mean that when I count to 10, you will awaken feeling an irresistible urge to smile. Starting to count to awaken you. 1, 2, 3, waking up. 4, 5, 6, more alert. 7, 8, open your eyes, open your eyes. 9, 10, wide awake, wide awake, wide awake.